Hello to you. Today I'm going to be doing a session which is all around managing contact. And what I'm going to do is go straight to sharing my screen, bring up the PowerPoint that I've done. You'll have seen, if you have seen, sorry, we've done quite a few workshops that are all kinship specific. And there you can see contact arrangements, supporting safe and positive contact with birth parents. I think at this point, it's very important for me to say that a lot of the information today has been sourced from the Adopt Hubs, Managing Family Contact as a Special Guardian and or Kinship Carer, and that's by Nuala Hemphill. It's an excellent piece of work, so why would anybody reinvent the wheel? There are a few local editions, there are a few HETIS specific editions, and a few of my own observations from what I've done over the years supporting kinship carers. And contact can be a very emotive and difficult process. And obviously there's the fallout from the children when they come back. There's a lot of different things that can happen. It might take a couple of days for the kids to come back to being as they usually behave. Excuse me. And we'll be covering that today anyway. So there you go. Hello. My name is Craig Knowles. If you've not met me, I am the kinship care worker for HETIS. And we support parents, carers, or anybody that's affected by somebody else's drug or alcohol use. And whilst all of our clients who have got kinship, who are kinship carers, or kinship carers because of it's related to drug and alcohol use, it's not exclusive. I think this video will be helpful to anybody that's trying to manage and consider how to make safe contact arrangements. I'm not here to tell you what to do or how to do it in your specific circumstances. I'm here purely and simply in the capacity of trying to help and trying to support people that can't get to our groups, can't get to our workshops, can't get to one-to-one sessions, just trying to make our support a little bit more available and transportable so that you can just click a button and watch it. So basically what I'm saying is I'm here to try and help. So, but I'm always happy for any feedback. Just remember, you are the expert on you. You're the expert on your life and your kinship children. Today's session is merely to help you consider the many things related to contact. It will hopefully help you to make informed decisions, to support and encourage positive, safe and enjoyable contact with birth parents. That's obviously gold standard that we're all hoping to get to. At the same time, if those things aren't possible, it will hopefully help you to tailor contact to safer and more manageable contact if those relationships are strained. So let's see how it goes, eh? So what we're aiming to explore today is the nature and purpose and frequency of contact, any relevant legislation and principles, some safety planning, very important, contact arrangements per se, considering different ages and needs, risk and resilience, and how to access support. The bottom one's really easy. Pick up the phone to HETIS. We can discuss that with you. If you need to speak to me specifically around these things, at the end of this slide will be all of my contact details. Between 40 and 50% of looked after children have contact with a family member on a weekly basis. Children may want contact with some, but not with others. And this is references again from the Adopt Hub. There is references to managing family contact as a special guardian and or kinship carer by Nuala Hemphill throughout. In the main, kinship carers may help children to develop and or keep a good relationship with the birth parents, and it's thought easier to maintain contact. And it's certainly something that I've seen over the years. It can, of course, as you will know, be much more complex. And you as kinship carers may actively encourage contact with birth parents to try and make it work, because you realise the importance of that relationship. And sometimes that can be really hard, because it may see or be perceived that actually birth parents don't see that importance. And it often feels like you're carrying the weight not only of the kinship children when contact's happening, you want it to work for them, you sometimes carry the weight of, because it might be your own child that's no longer parenting, might be a stepchild, whoever it is, you sometimes carry that weight of, I only wish they'd see it in a different way so that things could be better for the children and I'd be able to manage it better. Those types of thoughts, you know. If safe, productive and positive contact can work, then we of course will encourage it to. We want all family to be well and recover from whatever the circumstances were which led to you being a kinship carer and the children not remaining with the birth parents. So there's a lot of things to consider initially. So how can contact help? Contact can be direct, it can be face-to-face or indirect via letterbox with photos, letters or video. It can be formal, it can be supervised, or it can be a little bit more informal. There's lots of different types. And again, we'll touch on all of them throughout. So hopefully by the time we get to the end, you'll be able to think, right, what's the contact looking like for me at the minute? Is that working for me at the minute? Has any of the things that I've listened to today helped me to reassess what can make things better? And again, if all of those things are in your mind and you've watched the video and you think, do you know what, I do need to tweak things a little bit, give us a call. Always happy to help, support things. And it might actually need other services coming in, potentially, not always, but sometimes, to make sure that the contact can be managed just a little bit better and safer. Contact obviously helps to promote the child's well-being. Children and young people need to make sense of what's happened to them in the past. Contact can help them to remember important people in their lives. It can reassure them that they have not been abandoned. And again, I've said this in other videos, it's really important that children know it's not their fault. It's really important that they know that they're not with you because of something that they have done or said. It can help to develop a sense of identity, to make sense of their past and to be able to integrate the past with the present. Really important. What is right for an individual child and family varies, obviously, like I said at the beginning. The child's needs have to be central to a contact plan. Remember, it's the child's right to contact, no one else's. Losing touch with familiar people and places can be another loss. It helps birth parents to contribute to their children's lives. The changed family situation can affect the parent's sense of status and parenthood. Contact managed positively can help to feel there is still a role for them to play, even if there are restrictions. And again, like we've said, we really want all family members to recover from the circumstances as to what has led to you being a kinship carer and the children being with you. And if we can help the parents to help themselves to play a more pivotal role and a healthier role, then that can only be a good thing. That's just my opinion. It can only be a good thing. You might think differently, and that's okay too. What can make it difficult? Behaviour responses. Kinship carers can find it hard to support as it can affect the children's behaviour. And it often does, before and after contact. We often hear comments like, it's us that have to pick up the pieces after contact, and it takes a day or two for them to get back to how they usually are. Said that right at the beginning, didn't I? But it is something that I hear quite often. It really is. Reliability. Birth parents may not be reliable and cause feelings of resentment from carers, in addition to feelings of rejection by the children. We would always encourage that contact is scheduled and planned wherever possible. We'll touch on things that you can do to do that as well. Life story. It can be hard to find appropriate ways to talk about children, about why they only see the parents via contact arrangements, depending on their age. They may, of course, already know the circumstances, but this is definitely a very complex issue, and we would always encourage that you discuss this with us and others that are supporting you in order for you to be comfortable with what's happening between your ears, so that your reflection can be your best friend rather than your worst enemy. Resentment. Some kinship carers can be critical of parents, and we can really understand the reasons why. There can be resentment that the parent is not having to take responsibility, or that there's been an impact on their own lives, possibly exposing the child or young person to a negative perception of the parent. It can act as a barrier to contact. And again, these circumstances are understandable. What's important is those circumstances are understood, and you only understand them by discussing things and by, at times, being open-minded. Excuse me. Loyalty. That can also make it difficult. As with other types of care situations, many children can lack confidence to talk or ask questions about the birth parents when the carers are there. We encourage you to encourage them to talk to someone they trust about this. And again, we can signpost you to other services if needed to help that process. The final thing we've got on here that can make it difficult is protection, concern about the risk posed by contact with the birth parent, and the need for safety planning. And again, it's really important that we cover that, because contact always has to be safe. It has to be in the best interest of children. And if there's a court order, then that's saying that you've got to make contact, if it's detrimental, the child's not safe, then I would encourage you to get your case number from the court when you've got your care order and write to the court to seek their advice as to what you should do. Or you can get your free half-hour with a solicitor just to discuss things with them about it. So, what should contact be like? I think I've got that right. I've gone too far. No, I haven't gone too far. There we go. What should contact be like? It should always be purposeful. Kinship carers should consider the purpose of contact and the well-being of the child or children. If you still have a social worker involved, discuss any thoughts that you have with them. Discuss those thoughts with us. Think about things. And if you're not sure, like I say, have a chat with us. Contact should be managed, and kinship carers do need to ensure that contact is managed and structured, with obvious exceptions and additions such as holidays and birthdays, appointments. I'm not saying if you don't attend at that day at that time, then that's it. It's being grown up about it, isn't it? If there are specific needs from either side, discuss it with each other and say, right, we're going to do this instead this week because of X, Y, or Z. That way, both sides will know when it will happen. And it does help to manage possible fallout and consequences. It also helps the children to prepare themselves emotionally. The contact needs to be age appropriate. We'll be touching on that further in a little while. Obviously, children's needs over time changes. They develop, so do their interests, so do their perceptions, and so does their perspective of how they're seeing and perceiving the situation. So it's always important that their perception is accurate. reviewed. Contact absolutely needs to be reviewed. It needs to be reviewed regularly. We would always encourage that you keep a contact diary for this. Perhaps write negative contact in red and positive in blue. That'll give you that visual cue as to what type of things are happening when you look at your contact diary, and it helps you to reflect and tailor ongoing contact accordingly. And that can also help in legal cases. I'm not going to go into legal cases, they're for the courts to decide, but if somebody takes a case to court for contact and you've got lots of information and evidence as to what's happened previously and currently, a contact diary is a great way to do that. And it doesn't have to be all singing and dancing. If it's a proper diary, I'd say that's always the best thing. It doesn't have to be war and peace, but it does have to contain incidents that have happened that are accurate. And if you've not got anything on, if something happens, scribble it down at the time and then put it into your contact diary later, just so that you don't forget anything. And again, it's recorded. It could help at a later date. As well as being reviewed, it needs to be supported. And kinship carers do need support to help manage the complex emotional needs of children, birth families and carers when planning contact. It can be hard when kinship carers are left to do this without support. Obviously, you've got a crucial role to play. So speak to us about how we can potentially help you or signpost you to others that can. If you've got a care order, which most of you have, that means that they're now officially with you. You've got parental responsibility. You're prioritizing their needs, wishes, and feelings above anyone else's. So it's highly likely that it's closed to social care and that children's services are no longer playing a part in the day-to-day. And that can be quite isolating. You know, the weight is all on you. And it doesn't have to be. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't have to be. You can chat through things with us, and I'll do my best to help you, to help yourself, and change the circumstances, or perhaps even change the lens that you're looking at life through to help you to feel a little bit better. There is legislation around contact, and if required, it may need to be explored further. But here is that legislation. And again, I'm no solicitor, I'm no law expert. This is again sourced from, I forgot her name, Nuala's original PowerPoint. So here they are. It's the Human Rights Act confirms the right to family life. Don't like pointing. The Children's Act 1989 placed duty on local authorities to promote and support contact between children and looked after and their families as a right of the child. The local authority can apply for a contact order. Under Contact Regulations 1991, Regulation 3, a local authority can depart from the terms of a contact order if the person named in the order agrees and where the child is not of sufficient understanding, he or she also agrees. The local authority can't refuse contact unless an order is granted by the court. The Adoption and Children Act 2002/2005 changed the law in relation to placement for adoption. The legal duty to promote contact will not apply. Contact decisions will be made by the courts. The Children and Families Act 2014 made changes to arrangements for contact between looked after child and families aiming to reduce disruption caused by inappropriate contact. There is no longer a duty to promote contact. Continuing with that relevant legislation, who decides? Social workers, family court, and special guardians. The child or young person's views will be taken into account. Contact is the right of the child, not the parent or any other person. What to do when contact decisions need to be made? talk to us, discuss things. It may be worth you speaking with a family solicitor. A lot do the free half-hour. Speak to Kinship, which is formerly Grandparents Plus. They've got their advice that you can. We've done another one, support for kinship carers, another video like this, support for kinship carers, and it takes you through how to log in, how to access support from other supporters of kinship carers. So it might be worth you having a look at that. It's also on YouTube. Just click for it, look for support for kinship carers. You could also speak to Grandparents Legal Centre. That's also mentioned in that other video. And trust your gut. You know, like I said at the beginning, you're the experts on you. You're the experts on your life. You're the experts on the day-to-day routines of the children. So often, trusting your gut is overlooked, but it can't be underestimated. Talk through what you're thinking and feeling with someone who understands and is impartial and objective. Somebody like Hetties. And I've not come across this, but under 2015 Children and Families Act, an enforcement order for contact of access may be made when the court is satisfied that the applicant was unreasonably denied custody or access by a parent or guardian. The best interests demand that an order be made, and it is otherwise appropriate in the circumstances to do so. So like I say, it's something I've not come across, but I think it's really important to leave it in just in case somebody else has. Safety planning, always discuss what would safe contact arrangements look like. So the where, consider the best contact environment. Contact can be supervised, facilitated, or unsupervised. It may take place at a contact centre. That's usually when social services are still involved. After that, it's rare that you see contact taking place in a contact centre. The best place, in my humble opinion, is a public place, especially in town centres. Got lots of CCTV, and if it's in a public place, you've got witnesses. It just feels safer. Now, it does say at home of the kinship carer, but again, it's not something I would encourage, because your home needs to be your sanctuary. It needs to be where it just needs to be safe. And your home needs to be your, like I say, sanctuary. If it has to happen there, it's up to you. Of course, it's up to you. And like I said, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just saying it's best for it not to happen there. But if it's a great relationship already with the birth parents, then why not? Birth parents and other family, so it could also happen at birth parents or another family member's house. But it needs to be a child-friendly and stimulating environment, and it needs to take into account any cultural sensitivity. And there always needs to be a commitment to maximum safety. Can't iterate that enough. But wherever it takes place, think about the child, think about what they're going to be doing there, think about how they're going to be feeling there, what they need. Discuss it with them as well. So when, focus on the child's needs. You know the children you care for best, the routines, any clubs that they do, any classes, etc. Make sure wherever possible, contact takes place outside of these things, so it's seen as extra and not taking away something else that they already enjoy doing. Remember, it's at their convenience, not at parents' convenience. So, and if the child's parents are not seeing them too often, I don't think it's a bad thing to ask them to perhaps change their plans to suit their children's. So wherever possible, it should be something to look forward to and not dread. And if it's becoming the latter, discuss this with all parties to see what can be changed. And again, discuss things with us if you need to. And how do you risk assess? For all the things I've just mentioned, as well as talking things through with us, if you need to. If you've still got a social worker involved, speak with them, ring Kafkas, ask for their advice. Again, there's legal advisors, there's solicitors, there's police, there's a whole host of information on your local police websites. You can ask your friends and family, and there's loads that you can do just by Googling it on, on the internet. Managing tension and uncertainty. Many kinship carers are not clear about the role they will be playing. The child can also be anxious about it. This can lead to tension. If a parent does not feel useful, they might disengage and opt out of the process. So what can help? Again, talking. All adult parties need to feel valued and respected and clear about their role. And again, if we're discussing this beforehand, and I'm not teaching you how to suck eggs, I'm just helping, in my opinion, to help you to have a conversation that's centered around making it work the best it possibly can. And you can't be clear about your role unless you've discussed it. And the purpose of contact needs to be clear. And it is obviously primarily about the well-being and needs of the child or children. What else can help? You might need mediation. You might need to come and chat to us together as a family to discuss things through. Mediation can also be paid for if that's what's needed. There might be other organisations that offer confidential professional help, where obviously a confidential service, you can speak to us, we can discuss things with you. Again, if social services are still involved, family group sessions, that might be helpful. If you're all okay with it, then it's something that we've done in the past as well. We've had all families in, we've chatted things through. Overcoming concerns that the carer's attitude towards the parent would be picked up by the child or young person. And again, it's really difficult at times to swallow the things that you're thinking or feeling, and our body language at times can be picked up by the children, because we could have very, very strong feelings towards the parents. The very fact that they're still having some form of contact at times can be really upsetting. But wherever possible, we have to swallow that. We have to be seen by the children as adults, and we have to be the change that we want to see ourselves. We want things to get better. We want things to be well. So overcoming negative attitudes towards each other, again, gold standard. There's carer support groups. You all know about well, you might know, I'm saying you all know. If you're watching this video, it's probably been signposted by us for you to watch. We do the groups. There's a group every week for ETIs, and we do lots of workshops, and there's pretty much one every week as well. All of these things that we've just discussed can be discussed with us if necessary, so that you can find the right balance for you. Different types of contact. Let's start with letterbox contact. Now, this can often be used in situations when direct contact is not appropriate or maybe potentially harmful. It might be a case of logistics. It can help provide information for the children about their family. It can also be something to treasure later. Letterbox contact can be helpful to answer questions. It can serve to let the children and young people know they are kept in mind and not rejected or forgotten. The difficulties around this, though, can include a research study showed contact to be a negative experience for about 25% of children. They experience guilt or divided loyalty, abuse and or emotional suffering continued, and setbacks in progress were noted. And this was from Lord and Borthwick, 2009, Maccashire, 2002. And it can also be hard to write to people you don't know well. It can be excluding of the children from that process. There can be delays in receiving letters. Carers not wanting to write too much information. And it can also present an unrealistic picture. And if you want to see what can present an unrealistic picture, just go on Facebook for 5 minutes. My own personal opinion, not the opinion of Hetty's. No, sorry. You can, have a think. Is there any other benefits or difficulties with letterbox contact? There's also video, FaceTime contact. Video contact is often, again, it's usually situations when direct contact is not appropriate. It may be potentially harmful, but still helps parents and children to see each other. It can also be managed safely. Video contact reduces logistical problems, travel costs, and time barriers. It can again serve to let the children and young people know that they're kept in mind, not rejected or forgotten. But the difficulties, again, it can paint an unrealistic picture, and it can feel a little bit less personal. But like I said at the beginning, it's much easier to manage. So what about the different ages? Let's have a think about that for a second. And if this is I'm realizing it's perhaps death by PowerPoint, it's a lot of talking. You may need to pause at any time, make yourself a brew, come back to it at different stages. It's not a really long video, but you may want to consider just pressing pause, moving around for a little bit, having a listen to the birds, immerse yourself in all your senses for a wee while. It can be very emotive. So perhaps consider that. But the different ages, so babies and infants up to 3, the age of the child needs to be considered, obviously, when planning contact arrangements. I don't know why I've put agreements. I'll change that. My apologies. The focus for infants tends to be developing the attachment relationship with birth mother and father. It's often to assess parenting and teach some skills. Some research shows high frequency contact for infants several times a week. Now that can be difficult. And there's the reference to that, Humphries and Curella, 2011. And we've also seen that, we've also seen this. And when there is a lot of contact, and it is like 3-4 times a week, it brings with it lots of added pressures. Incidents start to increase, and that frequency is very often reduced down. If it's positive, then great stuff. But again, if it's starting to bring up issues, then it might be worth considering looking at the arrangements again so that it can be more manageable. And remember, you've got the other one that's doing this, the other one that's got to manage it generally. So make sure that you consider your own needs at all times, because you matter too. Now, babies and infants up to 3, it can also disrupt nurturing and routines and unsettle caregiving. The quality of contact is more important, remember that, than the frequency. If it's good quality rather than the frequency, that's much better. Relationships will not be built without skilled parenting support. Frequent contact can cause discontinuity of care and/or insensitive care. This can produce high levels of stress for infants, especially those who have experienced early chaotic care. So keep that in mind. 3 to 5-year-olds. Children separated from parents can have language delay and can communicate behaviour and feelings through play and behaviours. Their behaviour may be difficult during contact, and they may seek to take control. Again, it's about observations. Think about these things. When making contact arrangements, the child may ask questions: where, when, who will be there. This is obvious. This is not obvious. Sorry, this is to feel more in control and have some prediction about what will happen. They may need reassurance about when they will next have contact. Visual reminders can help. So 3 to 5-year-olds, charts, diaries on the walls, perhaps some picture that they've picked that that signifies contact with whoever it is, mum, dad, or both. Stick it on the calendar, let them know. They'll be looking. It will help to reassure them. Now, if you recognise any of these things we've discussed for 3 to 5 year olds, and it's brought up questions for you, then please speak with us and we can try our best to help, or like it says, put some extra support in place if required. So 6 to 12 year olds, the age of a child is an important factor in contact arrangements. For older children, the focus is on preserving or developing existing relationships. It can be difficult at this age, to manage feelings. Timing of contact when the child is not tired or at school is obviously helpful. They may have confused thoughts and blame themselves for the family separating. At the risk of being boring and repeating, again, the children always need to be reassured that the situation isn't their fault. And if they are feeling like, if they will internalize things, we know that. And if they've got a trusted adult or somebody that they can speak to, then that's going to be a good thing. And it doesn't always have to be face to face. It can be online, and there's lots of safe places that they can do that. And again, for more information about those things, perhaps look at the video support for kinship carers, because there's a whole host of information on that one. Some may react well to regular contact. It may help them to believe that the parents still care. Others may be anxious to please, hoping parents will be able to care for them again. The child's views about contact should always be taken into account. Contact for teenagers. Teenagers are often expected to be allowed to make their own decisions and contact arrangements. They often need more support than they get in managing complex relationships with birth parents. So consider that. And again, yeah, we do. Once a child seems to be at an age where they can cope or perceived as being able to cope, I'm not saying for a second you're doing this. I'm saying it's always worth considering if your teenager needs some extra support. Just check in with them. Are you okay with this? Is there anything else I can do? Is there anything else anyone else can do? What do you need? What's missing? Is it too much? Be interested. They're at the stage where they will have questions and seeking to make sense of their loss and build a sense of identity. They may manage regular contact at weekends or holidays. I might be able to manage that. And if they can, great stuff. They may also understand that the birth parents can't meet all their needs. However, they can be vulnerable and sensitive to rejection by friends or parents. They need support to manage contact with birth parents safely, where the relationship can be abusive or has been abusive emotionally or physically. Now, telephone or social media contact can be problematic. It may have to be monitored. Unregulated contact can be difficult to manage safely. They may need guidance in safe use of social media so that they develop skills to keep themselves safe. And I would say all schools and academies have got programs and workshops on staying safe online. If you're not sure, speak to your school. Contacting young adults. Biological curiosity is natural. When someone reaches 18, they may wish to contact birth parents or other relatives. Providing information and helping children and young people make sense of their past is an ongoing task for carers, guardians, and adopters. And it is. And we see that. We have lots of people asking lots of questions throughout. And I've been doing this now long enough to see children that have been born and now in university, they've got children themselves. That's one of the joys of being old. It's also one of the joys of doing this job for so long, seeing the children that when they first come to live with the kinship carers, all of those thoughts, feelings, emotions, worries, anxieties, stress, etc., and then seeing a adult that's well-rounded, that is successful, is obviously a great gift that this job gives us. It also is living proof that despite bad starts to life, you're giving them the best possible second chance. Always keep that in mind as well. You are giving these children the best possible second chance in their lives, having had possibly the worst possible first chance. Always remember that. Considering additional needs, research shows that half of disabled children in care are less likely to have regular contact with birth parents. And that's from the Council for Disabled Children 2003. This was sometimes linked with distance. However, over time, lack of contact was found to become habitual. Just get used to it. Reliability of birth family and disappointment related to reliability can be a problem. Fostering good relationships through contact is seen as good practice. However, it can be difficult for children with disabilities to get their views listened to. Also, to have some control in frequency of contact. And again, we've got families where there's disabled children where I've got limited vocabulary or non-verbal. It's always important to consider different forms of communication. Makaton. My own opinion is that Makaton ought to be taught, for all people, really. Just my opinion again. Learning some basic skills, learning some basic communication can go a long, long way to helping people to feel valued, understood, listened to, etc. Contact can be stressful, and there have been concerns about supervision and the quality of the contact. Contact should be reviewed and a way found to capture children and young people's reactions and views. So where there's a will, there's a way. It's good observation, it's good record keeping, write things down, be attentive, which I'm sure you already are. More important when considering additional needs. Contact with siblings and other relatives. Contact can be with siblings living in different placements or families. There's a service, I don't know if you're aware of it, called Siblings Together. Have a Google of that if it's something that you need to familiarise yourself with. It can be important for different siblings to stay in touch. Such contact can be valuable. I know there's a number of our families still having letterbox contact from other siblings living elsewhere, and that's looked forward to. Those things can go in memory boxes, etc. as well. It can add to that. Contact with siblings and wider birth families such as grandparents can be a source of stability and continuity. It can be helpful if there's complex relationship with parents. For others, this contact may be more complex depending on the situation. And then we're back to letterbox contact, that can be helpful. And social media access may need to be safely monitored with younger children particularly. And that's, again, it feels like we're echoing things, that this is in relation to contact with siblings and other relatives. Life storybooks. Now, a lot of you will have already had life storybooks done. Might be in the process of life storybooks, and it might be something you thought, I wonder what these are. If a child was very young at the time of you becoming their kinship carer or special guardian, they may not be able to recall any other life situation. Other children or parents may notice and ask questions that can be difficult. And if you, the kinship carer, communicates in a positive and happy way, this will transfer to the child. Life storybooks can be a very powerful way of sharing the child or young person's story in a positive way. It is the process of helping children separated from their birth parents to remember and make sense of their early lives. It can link their past with their present. It's not something to fear. It's something to be curious about. It's something to know about. But I don't think, again, in my humble opinion, it's something to fear. It's something to explore. And again, my opinion is that life story books are an extraordinarily good way of helping children to make sense of their past. And again, linking it to their present. It can be a way to share positive feelings and experiences that they may have had as a family. It is not denying things, but it helps to maintain balance and perspective. It provides a continuing narrative that can be added to over the years. They can use it when confronting difficult feelings or trying to accept and put experiences into context. The process, if it's not already started, can be started by you together with the child or your children. There are different media that can be used to add experiences and feelings with teenagers. Let's have a look a bit further about that in a bit. We'll have a look at that a little bit later. Sorry, I'm not making myself clear here. The life storybooks, we'll look at that a little bit more later. Got some references for that. Contact for adopted and fostered children. The most important person in any contact agreement is, again, the child. Contact agreements are usually drawn up at the time of placement or adoption. Again, it's not something we see very often at Hetties, but it's important to leave this in case that, if you're watching this not as a kinship carer for Hetties, I just think it's really important that I've left this in. And again, it's sourced from the Adopt-a-Hood's Managing Family Contact as a special guardian and or kinship carer. And we've referenced that throughout at the bottom in red. Contact can be face-to-face or letterbox. Contact can be with birth parents, also with siblings or other relatives such as grandparents. Adopters can also find contact with previous foster carers helpful. Young people may want to contact their birth families when they turn 18. This can be easy for adopters to deal with if they have supported their children to have good understanding of their background. Birth relatives may only seek to contact adopted young people after their 18th birthday through an officially approved intermediary. The adopted person's wishes have to be respected. Before moving on to those references to the life story books, there's my contact details. I hope you found some of it helpful. And again, just to reiterate, the most important thing is the children. Then it's about, just remember you matter too. Don't try to please everybody all the time. If you're pleasing the kinship child, and if you're using your therapeutic parenting in relation to discussing things, if you don't know what therapeutic parenting is, there's another video that we've done around therapeutic parenting. Whilst I'm talking about therapeutic parenting, have a look at Beacon House resources. If you just put in Beacon House resources in Google, it'll take you to Beacon House. They've got so much information, quality information around how to communicate, around how to look at things from a different perspective and make connections with children that are emotional, perhaps dysregulated. So have a look at those resources. If you've got any further questions, sorry, I was going on to, just remember you matter too as well. Just remember that you're important, and you're communicating as best you can with your child and asking questions with us or others, then you're not going to get far wrong. But don't not ask questions. Don't be alone with it. Always seek support. If you've got any other further feedback, one of which is going to be put your teeth in, Craig, there's my contact information. It's all lowercase. The K's come back up capital K, but it is craig.knowles@hetis.org.uk, all lowercase. There's my works mobile. Let me know what you think. If you want anything added, please tell me. If you want anything taken out, please tell me. If you think it's rubbish, please tell me. If you think it's great, please tell me. Here's some other useful organisations without going through them all. You can have a look at that. Perhaps press pause. And here's the guidance around life story books. There's a link for some templates and examples. There's some more references and books. Have a look at them. I'm not going to read them all out. I'm just merely highlighting that these would be, they're all good reading. They really are good reading. There's one there by the very famous Jamie Lee Curtis. You're old enough to remember her dad in the Vikings. Remember that? Oh, don't know how to put that in a video, but there we go. There's some more books supporting life story work. Here's some fiction books, look, for children, featuring kinship care. Jacqueline Wilson. How many kids read Jacqueline Wilson books? Who knew, eh? Kinship care. So the cat mummy. Verity lives with her grandparents. And that's it. So I'm going to stop sharing there. Back to seeing my dial. Once again, I do hope that you found elements of this useful. Cherry pick out of all the videos the bits that will work for you, that are interesting for you, that will help you to reflect on your situation. And again, if you do need to speak to us, then please do. We're more than happy to listen. Thanks very much. You all take care and have a good day or good evening. Cheerio.